Today we're going to talk about ESSEN, which is a board game about board game culture, board games themselves, and turning people into money. Literally. ESSEN is a 2 to 4 player board game where you play as a publisher trying to sell your games at ESSEN. The convention, not the board game itself. Board gameception. ESSEN is pretty cool. I mean, it's not exceptionally complex once you get your head around it, and it plays nice and quick. You only take a few actions at a time, actually I think one action at a time, and downtime is pretty minimal. The game has multiple moments where everyone's just placing tiles all together, so that is a fun part of the game, which doesn't take too much time, because everyone's doing it together, it speeds up the game quite a little bit. And that's fun, I like that bit, you know, just placing the thing. Okay. You essentially have a stack of tiles which you need to place on your player board, right, on all of the tables. So you just place one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I love that, you know, it's so much fun. Is it a thematic or is it a Euro? You know, this is becoming more and more of a non-question to me, because the more our little hobby grows, the more these two genres are blending together. But if I had to say, ESSEN's probably a Euro. Then again, it's got so many things that are not that Euro, you know, you've got randomness of tile draws, you've got, well, that's in Euros too, but you've got randomness, you've got direct player interaction, but then again you've got a lot of making money, making the most money, and game bonuses, which you collect at the end, which are always a thing in most Euros. So it's a blend of the two, and that's great. That's great, because that brings me to the point of why ESSEN is an iconic game at the same time. Nowadays, the two genres have blended in so much that liking Euros doesn't mean that you like every single Euro, and liking Ameritrash doesn't mean you like every single Ameritrash, and there are quite a few examples of games which are both at the same time. ESSEN is probably not exactly one of them, but although ESSEN is a Euro, that does not mean that it's not thematic. Actually, the theme is what this game is all about, you know, it's what this game means, which makes so much sense. ESSEN to me represents a sort of coming of age for board games. We have had enough time and our hobby has grown enough of its own culture that culture starts being reflected in the artifacts that we make and we create. You know, it's one thing having inside jokes in the forums, right, when we're talking with each other, we have these little inside jokes, but it's another thing when we actually start making games about ourselves. And this is not a question of Easter eggs. This is the board game community making a game about ourselves and then playing it with each other. You know, Munchkin had a little bit of this back in the day with regards to role-playing. Not that Munchkin has anything in common with ESSEN, because it doesn't. It's completely different. Except backstabbing. Yep. In this Euro you can backstab each other. Well, in a way. But we'll get to that later. Let's go back to ESSEN, which is a board game. Essentially, you have one meeple, and this meeple is gonna be you, the publisher, yourself. You will be buying selling tables beforehand, but to be able to buy those selling tables, you'd need to pay someone, so those would cost you money. But you could go, as a publisher, to man one of the selling tables yourself, and that would be completely free, and you have a third selling table if you paid for two before. There are a total of 4 tables which you can man. But there's a catch. If you make all of the 4 tables selling tables, then you will not generate any more buzz. And in the next turn, because the neighbors will have more buzz than you, they will take some of your dudes, which did not manage to buy a game this turn. So they will take your customers away if you don't have enough buzz from turn to turn. So you need to strike this balance that you have between the buzz and how much you sell, right? You have 4 tables. If you leave them the way they are, all 4 of them generate buzz. But you need to actually sell some. So you need to remove the buzzing tables and put in selling tables. But now you have 2 tables that are generating buzz and 2 tables that are selling. You have 3 tables that are selling, you have only 1 which is generating buzz, which means that your neighbors will steal from you and will take the customers away next turn if they have more buzz. Which brings me to the cool thing, the player order. The player order in this game has a very big effect. The first player, of course, gets benefits because he gets the first choice on most things. You know, there are finite things like ads and accountants and sale tiles. You can have a sale, but not everyone can be on sale at the same time. There are a limited number of those. So the first player gets choice on those, but the last player gets to see what everyone else has done and react accordingly, and that is a real cool benefit, and that's clever, you know, because in most other Euro games, the last player is either at a disadvantage or his advantage is replaced with something like giving him an extra bonus or something like that. But this game, inherently, the last player gets a sort of bonus on his own without having to add an extra mechanic. which is kind of cool. That's really elegant. So as the last player, you could look at the boards of your player on the left and player on the right, and you could see how much buzz they are generating. Therefore, you could match their buzz so that they don't steal anything from you, or you could top them, and they can't do anything about that now. Man. I should ask someone if there's a real benefit, because I don't know about this. Is there a real benefit for being slow at ESSEN, for setting up last? I don't know if this is thematic or just happens to be like that way, but if at ESSEN you're the last one to set up, you do have a benefit of seeing what everyone else has set up, and you have the benefit to change that, because you are the last one there and you can see what everyone else is doing. Which is probably true. Yeah? So as your single meeple, as your single publisher dude, you can do a couple of things. One of them is sell games. The other is sit on a demo table and play games with players, and that would generate more buzz for you in the next turn. The other one you could do is go and buy sale tiles or accountants. And the last thing, backstabbing or stealing. But what you do with that is you essentially take your meeple guy and you go into the queues and the lines of the other players. You choose one, you go there, and you talk to the players there. This represents you dressing up in cosplay. That's what it is. The publisher dressing up in sexy attire and going onto the other lines and wooing the people in the lines back to your own stand. Yeah, I'll definitely dress up as some, I don't know, Final Fantasy character, or as the female farmer from the Agricola cover. Once you've set that up, you've decided what you're going to do, the doors are open and people flow into the convention center, and then you form your pile. Depending on the buzz of the previous ones, you get more people or less people, or there. But what's cool about it, that these tiles are double-sided. One side is an actual pixiple. That's what I'm going to call them, and no one will stop me, okay? Pixiple. You take a stack. On one side there are pixel people. On the other, they are money. So the same tile represents both money and pixel people. So when you actually manage to sell them board games, those pixel people turn back to money. And once you spend that money, they go back to the pile of pixie people, which means that the more money you spend, the more people there will be available for you to come back in through the same pool of pixel people. So awesome. I like that. There could be a situation where 40 people are supposed to come, but if everyone has been keeping all of their money, there won't be enough people there won't be enough tiles to come through the doors for 40 people. That's kind of cool, because greed kind of sort of means that you won't get enough people. It's kind of, I don't know, I just really like the fact that they're the same pile and it kind of rotates, and there's recycling of the same tile and there's recycling of the people, and when you spend money you know that there's another benefit, which would be that the possibility of getting more people into the pile so that you could fulfill the 40 people that are supposed to come in, even if there isn't enough people in the pile. So spending money is not always a bad thing, because spending money would mean that that money that you've spent is actually another person that you've put back into the pool, which will come back out from the other end. I like that. And all the things that happen are all congruent to the theme, right? The theme is apparent, it's there, it's hard to miss. It's based on 4 days, the 4 days of actual ESSEN. You play in the morning and the afternoon, the morning and the afternoon, which is the way ESSEN actually is. Which brings me to the box cover. Oh, the box cover art of ESSEN. It's all there in the cover. There are people, which we know. There's the stands, which we know. There are games, which we know in the cover. There's even a thread on Board Game Geek about this cover. I'm trying to point out who they actually are and the games, what are they. Of course, there's the big fat Luddy Creations stand, which is the publisher, and that is acceptable. And there's the actual publisher and the actual designer of the game as little pixieples in the box cover art. I mean, it's a little addition. It's only there for aesthetics, but it's kind of cool, because this is what the whole game represents. This is what the whole game is about. It makes it look like there's thought put into this, it's not just pixieples. Many of those little pixel people are actually real people. And they've even put in, as an extra thing, they've even put in their Kickstarter, they've put in the possibility to pay a little bit to have a pixel person of yourself made into the game. There are many other games which have had this thing where they send in a photo of you and the artist makes your liking inside the game, into the game. This has been done in many other Kickstarters before. But the thing is, when you make it in ESSEN and you're playing the game with this little dude, which might be yourself, going to ESSEN, which you will be doing this October, it's something you do in real life. You're not slaying monsters in real life, you're going to ESSEN. And now you have a game where you could have a pixel little person of you to play in the game about going to ESSEN whilst going to ESSEN itself. So imagine this situation, right? When you're at ESSEN next October and you're playing ESSEN at ESSEN with the person who is you on the stand of ESSEN inside the game of ESSEN, 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 ESSEN. You're playing with yourself.